Hello.
Right. So who's going to lead the meeting?
You want me, oh, you want to lead it?
Not particularly.
Okay, all right, I call the meeting to order. It is now 4:02 on April the 15th.
Hope you all paid your taxes.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I was so happy to do so. Okay, and we are on agenda item number 1. Members, do we need to do a roll call? Do I need to do that, or,
No, it's,
well, we have trustee Gullett Moore, trustee Ellen Starter, Dr., I forgot your last name.
Cornelia Hudson.
Yes. I don't want to say your name.
so the only role you need to call is
Or
the people,
trustees?
are the people who are officially on the committee,
Oh,
not the
thank you.
guests.
That helps. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay, so trustee Starter's here, trustee Gullett Moore is here, our student trustee, Kofed, is she on?
She is on Zoom.
She's here, and
Mhm.
so for today, we have absent trustee Croninger.
Mhm.
All right, now we are on agenda 2.1 for public comment. Are there any notifications for public comment?
Art, looks
received-
like Art is here. Does he want to talk?
I don't think he's officially asked to. Or
I
haven't-
haven't officially asked to, but I do have a few comments upon specific items later on.
Okay, so right now, the public comment refers to anything that's not agenda size, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so we don't have
I
any.
don't have any.
Right.
Comment right now.
Mhm.
We are now moving on to agenda item 3.1, election of sub-chair. Don't everybody raise their hand at once. Who wants to be the sub-chair?
Well, if either you or me or Marcia, we could elect her in her absence. That would be very good.
I don't think that would be good. to
No.
do.
So are you the subcommittee chair of any committees?
Yes, that is, but that doesn't,
Yes, you're a.
yes, I am, but it doesn't make me afraid to do it if you do not want to do it.
I'm not particularly interested in doing it.
Okay, I guess I'm the subcommittee chair for the policy committee.
Thank you.
So
Shirley.
you'll make a motion.
I move that trustee Gullett Moore is the chair of the policy subcommittee.
So, I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes, no, that's okay.
There you go.
Favor?
All right,
All right.
Aye,
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
More work. Woo. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, general, I'm reading, hold on, I'm reading something wrong. Agenda item 3.2, policy subcommittee, schedule.
Mhm.
Yes, so, did you get a chance to look at the schedule?
I'm looking at it and
June 19th is a college holiday. It's Juneteenth, so that is not an option.
June 19th?
Yeah, I believe we have a. Don't we have
15th
our-
is June.
yeah, we do have, we do. How about the 20th, Thursday, the 20th?
So I
Does that work
can,
for you?
I can only do June 18th.
Well, then that's when it is.
Okay.
Okay. Student trustee, Kofed, did you have anything you wanted to say as it relates to the dates for June?
She won't be the trustee in June. We'll have another student
Don't remind
trustee.
me. Don't
Sorry,
remind me.
Sophia.
It's all good.
Don't remind me. Okay, we already confirmed for August 5th. We're now moving at possible dates for October. I am open for the 7th, the 8th, or the 9th only. How about you, trustee Starter?
I don't think it matters. So I think, I think any of those are okay. I know I'm traveling, but I think I'm back by then.
For the 7th, 8th, and 9th, you believe you're traveling?
Well, no, I think I'm back already.
Okay,
Okay, so 7's a great number. Do you want to go with 7?
Yeah,
that's a Monday.
you know, when I go home and look at my calendar.
We'll
if
circle back on
That's,
that.
there's a conflict, I'll let Paulina know.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
so as of right now, we are choosing October the 7th.
Yeah,
And will the times always be 4 to
Mhm.
6? Okay.
that works.
Now we are on dates for
December.
December.
Mhm.
The only one that I cannot do is December 4th, but the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th is are open for me.
Let's just do the second, okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Great.
All right, so now we are moving on to agenda item 3.4, board policy 3050.
I think we're on 3.3. We're 3.3,
Did I miss a number?
Yeah.
My apologies.
2355.
Yeah, we're on agenda item 3.3, board policy 2355. Thank you, Paulina.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, so do we want to pull it up on the screen so people can look at it?
And we also have hard copies.
Yeah.
Do you have a hard copy? Cornelia, do you have a hard copy?
No. Thank you so much. Highly appreciate it.
Dr. Keller, you need one?
I've got it on.
Okay. All right, so I looked at the information and, I was okay with the language. I don't have any notes here to change anything.
Yeah, it looked fine to me as well.
Okay.
I reviewed it at home.
So the changes that were made here, are those according to the policy service from CCLC?
These are not fully, so
Okay.
this does incorporate from our last meeting.
Okay.
So the previously, it incorporated from your comments from the last meeting as well as what the BPAP committee had previously done. So the line, I'm trying to think, what did my notes say, Paulina? Trying to remember exactly what I did on here. Give me just a second.
I got some notes from what you,
I added from the person's, from the meeting document, the PowerPoint that the
Mhm.
gentleman had. There was some language in there that you wanted to see included. The bullets, the disrupting, disturbing, and otherwise, that was pulled from the top, but then also the physical violence that was necessary. And then there was wanting to be, there was a bullet that described the behavior that was not okay. So that whole opening paragraph at the top, community and board members are expected to be courteous and respectful to those participating in the board meetings. Comments that are abusive, harassing, or condescending will not be permitted. Furthermore, speakers that engage in name calling or other personnel attacks will be found in violation of this policy. That language was crafted based upon the language from the 3 bullet points from the community members' PowerPoint presentation at the board meeting, and that was you all wanted to see that in there as well. And then I think those were the primary things that I did, was adding the disrupting, disturbing, and then that open area.
No, I agree. I was reviewing, our comments from trustee, Croninger as well as student trustee Kofit. I saw everything that we had recommended as far as teasing out some of the language from the other documents that was provided at the last meeting to help us, construct this paragraph right here.
And then everything after the bullets is from the CCLC.
So just to make sure for due processes, Dr. Johnson, what do we do next? Do we need to
Well,
do a
I
motion
think,
or something?
yeah, I think you have to do a motion to
Okay.
agree with this and then send it forward to the board for full approval.
So I move that we approve the changes to board policy 2355 as written on this document.
As written in the revised revision, okay?
Yes.
Okay, I will second that. And now we can open it officially for discussion. Dr. Androdanis, from your previous experience, when we look at this language again, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, we want to be intentional, but we don't want to be to the point where anything can be considered because it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of subjective sometimes.
It's completely.
What one
Yes.
person may consider is, disrespectful may not be what someone else would consider.
Mhm. And we do have a hand up,
Oh, I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Olguin.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to comment. And in fact, this whole issue of subjectivity is one of the concerns that I had in the languaging. Name calling, if somebody calls somebody, a liberal, or somebody calls somebody, somebody on the right, is that the kind of name calling that will be found? That's another area in that paragraph. Personal type will be found in violation of the policy. I would suggest to you that you consider that will be found, change that to may be found. Because I think that you need to have some leeway in there for the subjectivity. And, I mean, there can be some names that are called that are really not, harmful or
Hmm.
denigrating or abusive, harassing, or condescending. And again, abusive can be a very subjective kind of concept. And so I have, a few concerns about the subjectivity of those, but I would truly suggest changing that will be found, because if you don't, if there's name calling and the board, at a board meeting, and the board does not act then in violation, in accordance with this policy, well, then you open up the college for action because you did not do what it is that you said that you would do. So there's that concern. And then down at the very end, the final two paragraphs, where it says before removal, and then it moves to the next page. The very last, the second to the last, well, the last sentence on page 2, line 4, policy, and that such activity is intentional and has substantially impaired the conduct of the meeting. Again, substantially impaired is, subjective. And then at the very end is the second to the last line, shall be allowed to attend any session. You're talking there about the press, the media, and I would change that shall be allowed to must be allowed. The difference between, there's all kinds of litigation that looks at the difference between shall, must, and other mandatory kinds of descriptors. So I think that would be the more proper one to have there, is rather than shall to have must. But that's what I had to say on this. The subjectivity is a little unnerving, but there's several positive things that I think will help add to the decorum of board meetings. Just kind of thinking back to what's happened in the last 5 years or so. Thank you very much.
So there's that were some good comments. Thank you very much. I'm wondering if, condescending to me really feels subjective. I mean, it could just be like a look like that. And I'm wondering if we need to have that there. I mean, what if we say comments that are abusive or harassing will not be permitted? Do we need to have condescending in there?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's all subjective, because
Yeah.
let's just say we take out the word abuse, condescending. What someone may consider abusive may not be what someone else considers abusive. Did we run this through legal about words like shall versus?
So this language came through the policy service, correct?
It, this top paragraph is
Uh-huh.
from the language that we were asked, that I was to incorporate from the gentleman's PowerPoint.
Right, but I think the shall on the next page
Yes,
is,
Is-
came through the policy service, which means that it was legally vetted. and
Okay.
came to us through CCLC.
Okay.
I mean, we could circle back on that. In my experience, that that language mirrors Title V.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
But I think the comment at the beginning about speakers that engage in name calling or other personal attacks may be found in violation of this policy is a good point,
Yeah.
because,
Mhm.
you know, there has to be consistency
Mhm.
and so one person saying something and not having it called out versus another person.
Right.
is so subjective and could open the college up to liability.
Which exact sentence is that?
It's the last sentence of that first paragraph right here.
Oh,
So Dr. Olguin commented that this will should be
Oh, yeah,
may.
yeah.
May, okay, I like
Yeah.
that.
So the two like phrases in there that kind of jump out at me as maybe being the most subjective, the words are condescending and then the name calling.
Mhm.
And I don't know that we need them, because if we're saying comments that are abusive or harassing will not be permitted, I feel like that's enough. And also if we say speakers that engage in personal attacks is enough. I don't think we need to say name calling.
The condescending word, for me, I'm okay with removing that. The name calling, it is necessary because we've been having that. And no one should be called outside of the names they have identified themselves to be referred to. So for me, it's trustee Dr. Moore or trustee Moore. You shouldn't be calling me a liberal. You shouldn't be calling me right wing. That has nothing to do with the topic at hand. No one should be called out of their names. And because there's been repeated incidences of people referring to trustees outside of their name, I see it necessary, but.
That's okay then, you know.
What do you think, Doctor?
Well, I agree that I think I could see taking condescending out, because condescending is like super subjective, but I think name calling, especially if you think about, you know, just if I think about some of the meetings I've been in since I've been here,
Mhm.
there has been what I think amounts to name calling. So I could see keeping that. Condescending is quite subjective, though.
Okay,
Possibly derogatory name calling. This is
Yeah.
Then that just.
derogatory
No, I
remark.
mean, what's derogatory, you know, if somebody called me a liberal, I wouldn't take that necessarily.
Yeah, you might wear it like a badge of
No,
honor. Yeah.
you know, but no one should be calling you out of your name.
No,
period,
no, I
right?
get that, yeah.
So
Well,
taking out condescending.
And then changing that will in the last line of that paragraph.
To may,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Okay, so we're removing condescending. Having may, okay. And then we decided that the shall be allowed,
that aligns with the language.
that's
Yeah,
in
in
Title
Title
V,
V.
and it came through the policy service, so it
I'm
has
fine
been
with that.
legally
Okay.
vetted.
okay, so do I need to make a new motion now?
You could,
Make
yeah,
some
you can,
changes?
you can amend your motion, yes.
Okay, I'm amending my motion to approve policy, board policy 2355. Removing condescending, changing will to may, and leaving the rest as is.
And I will second that. Okay, is there any further discussion? I see no hands raised. All right, we will vote.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Okay. All right,
Hey,
moving on. Now it says note from Charles.
Yeah,
Who's Charles.
who is?
This is. Not.
That may be Charles
I don't-
Grog. I'm sorry for interjecting, but that may be Charles Grog from the Academic Policies Committee, which is a
Oh.
subcommittee of the Academic Senate.
Oh, okay.
And the Senate approved, since there are many new people on the board, and a new president, the Academic Senate initiated this, change in, policy, or this addition to the policy, to incorporate conflicts of interest. So the Senate approved that. It went to BPAP, and this is, I think, the first bringing from BPAP to to your committee.
Right, to my understanding, this
Okay.
was when trustee, I believe trustee Gallardo was the president, was the chair. And so there was some work done to this policy, but there was no forward movement. Right, am I, do I have that right?
I have
Denitra?
no idea.
I was not part of the committee at that time. I don't know either.
I got that from
Yeah.
Dr. Murillo. She said there was some work done, but there was no movement going forward. So I looked at the go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I looked at it and I think, under professional ethics, the second paragraph, that says reassessing cultural and political ideas, I actually think that should just say assessing. I think it assumes that somebody comes with a fully formed idea and that the goal or the role of the faculty is to force them to reassess. So it seems like this is assessing
Mhm.
rather than reassessing. And I don't, again, I'm saying that, and I wasn't here when this was all being discussed. My other issue about this policy is that I do not support hiring an ombudsperson for this
Yeah.
institution. Number one, that's a position, that's extra money.
Mhm.
It's a position that counts against it's on the wrong side of 50%.
Mhm.
And in the LACCD, it is in board policy that every institution has to have somebody assigned a minimum of 0.25 as the ombudsperson. And all the 9 colleges do it differently. When I was at Valley, I had somebody who was half-time student disciplinarian and half-time ombudsperson. At other colleges, they just assigned, this person randomly. In my experience, what happened was you have an ombudsperson. Some issue comes up with one employee group.
Mhm.
It goes to the ombudsperson. They make a decision that this employee group doesn't like, doesn't matter what it is. And then from that point forward, nobody will go to the ombudsperson from that entire group. So that's why I think here we have like the restorative justice healing circles, like we have other ways of dealing with conflict rather than putting it in a human or an office, because the second there's a problem, their credibility, rightly or wrongly, is questioned. Dr. Olguin, I see you're unmuted. Did you have a comment?
I'll let the rest of the board members talk, and if I have something to say, then I'll do it at the end.
Okay, okay.
To be
I
honest,
don't want to steer the discussion, I just
Okay.
want, but I do have a couple of comments.
to be honest, I was going to recommend that we table this for further review. Because I just need more context. Is this a brand new policy? Because when I look at board policy 2355, this is an established policy already and we are revising it. When I look at this, it looks like it's either a new policy or we're adding a lot more things to the policy. I need more time to evaluate
Yeah,
the language in here. It's a lot, and I don't want to put us in a position where we're not able to do what we are supposed to do as it relates to our strategic plan and our mission.
so it sounds like probably what we want to do is take these recommendations and actually put them in strike-through format into the actual policy so that it can be seen in context. Because it's not in context now. You have these comments and then you have the actual policy here. And I see what the goal is, to make sure that everyone at the college adheres to the code of professional ethics. So the intent is good. It's just the way that it's being presented is probably we're not getting a full picture.
You want me to work on that?
And question.
Oh, we don't do the strike through, I don't think, that's not, is that what we do?
BPAP does
Yeah.
the
Oh,
straight through.
My question is, I apologize, I'm looking at this right now. And I'm looking at the back and it says bold and purple was language that was added by the Academic Policies Committee back in 2021. And that looks like it is even different from this sheet. So I think we'll probably have to do some research to find out where this came from.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's important, and especially because I think the Academic Policies Committee is focused from the Academic Senate perspective. We just need to make sure we're consistent that it applies to all staff and all
Right,
faculty and
right.
all trustees. And I think there are a couple of places where we might want to just maybe use some more inclusive language. But I think having it in the right order would be helpful.
Another thing, when I was reading it, because they mentioned trustees in this, as in addition to the staff. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, does this even align with the ethics training that we're required to take? That language.
I believe it does because it's in accordance and we have old accreditation standards numbers too.
It's just, I think we need to table this and just, and to your suggestion, bring it back with the strike throughs and just need more time to read through this and see how it applies to all the people and categories identified in here, because it looks like some of the language is not relevant to trustees and is relevant to staff. Like this may be a board policy in one part and the other part may be a non-board policy, but was it an AP policy?
Well, no, it's an administrative procedure, but that's also part of the issue too, is that, you know, usually administrative procedures are tied to board policies that are not about the board because the board doesn't have administrative procedures.
Right.
So we need to clarify that as well. But if you're going to table it, Dr. Olguin, you had comments that you wanted to make so that those can be taken into account?
Yeah, I thank you. I do think that tabling is good, appropriate, because there is more discussion that and a deeper dive into this as you've stated. The 3050 has already been on the books for at least a few years. Even though it's not the best of policies, is my judgment, and needs a lot of revision.
Okay.
Discussion. However, what was not included in this, and again, it was coming from the Academic Senate side, was that while there is a conflicts of interest policy for the board, there is no conflict of interest policy for faculty, staff, administrators, or managers. That all the conflict of interest is only for the board and certain management positions, mostly over in business services, but those are articulated in, I think, some sort of, if it's not an administrative procedure, it's just like a division or department-wide kind of procedure. And all that is, you know, Title V and et cetera. So I'm not talking, so the issue was, that's a whole separate thing. The board does its own, it has its own conflict of interest policy. It tends to be financial conflicts, whereas what the Senate thought was needed was more of a broader conflicts of interest that involved not solely financial, but really conflicts of interest with respect to positionality. So that if you're supervising others, or if you are in a position of power in which you are making decisions or having influence in the making of decisions, and that's one of my concerns here in terms of some of the languaging that Charles has sent you in terms of the Academic Policies Committee. There's languaging that again, you know, talks about making decisions, but there is a greater nuance in there because it's not just that you are making a decision that has a conflict of interest, but it is also that you are involved in a hiring committee where you use your influence to hire somebody where there is a connection in some way to your position. So that was, the issue of the conflicts of interest as separate from the existing but limited conflicts of interest that already exist. Doesn't cover staff, faculty, managers. So that's my contribution at this time. And when you get to the point of, doing the line out and that sort of thing, then I might have a future things to say. Thanks.
No, thank you for that and bringing that awareness to us, especially as a fairly new trustee. I believe, I agree with you. We do need to have a conflict of interest for staff in addition to what we already have for trustees. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when proposals are brought to the board of trustees for us to vote on contracts and recommended consultants, there should be a conflict of interest. I thought we had one.
Well, we do.
We do.
Not for I'm not talking about for board trustees.
Oh.
I'm talking about for faculty and staff, whoever is submitting requests for us to
I see.
approve contracts. There should be a conflict of interest
Yeah,
that preclude them from recommending their cousins or a family member or someone
Yeah.
that will result in some kind of self-motivation of allyship to what he just mentioned. So no, definitely looks like it needs to be tabled and we need to look at this a little bit more.
I just wanted just to make sure you're aware and for your notes, you do have AP 2710, which is our conflicts of interest, and it does say for board members and employees. So if you're looking to expand more than, but I just wanted you to know that
Thank
that
you.
was there.
So then what we're talking about is that basically this this AP policy 2710?
This, I think part of what you're talking about is, it sounds like it's kind of split.
It needs to be
Um,
clarified, basically.
Yes.
It needs to be clarified.
Okay.
so now who works on this?
The BPAP
Okay.
committee
Okay.
works on it. And when we get to number 4, items for future consideration, I want to talk a little bit about instituting more of a process and a cycle for all of the
Mhm.
review. Because right now, through no fault of Denise's or anybody's really, we're a little more haphazard with how we're reviewing things.
Yeah.
Then I would like to go forward. I'd like to have more of a system in place that also incorporates shared governance.
Amin and I were talking about that earlier, like.
Yeah.
To decide what.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like we said what we needed to say. Do we need to vote on tabling it or we just stating that we're agreeing to tabling it?
I think you're agreeing to table it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we are now gonna go to item number 3.5, board policy 3420. I read that and I just had a couple suggestions and see, what do you think, trustee Stoddard? Can you? I guess I'll just read it here. Okay, so I wanted to insert the word. So the first sentence, as it comes down to, because it's a lengthy sentence, you see the second part of the first sentence, employment opportunities is equalized. I wanted to insert equalize and equitable. So equalize, comma, equitable.
Where are you?
So it's the very first sentence, but the third row, because it's a long sentence. Can we somehow interject the word
Oh,
equitable? Because equal and equitable are two different things.
an equitable and inclusive, is that the starting an equitable and
It's
inclusive
the
hiring?
very first sentence.
Right here.
Oh, the one up above. Okay, I see. It's made to look in which employment opportunities.
So it would be like, and opportunities are equitable and equitable, equalized, and community colleges foster climate acceptance.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and then my next suggestion was the next long sentence. So you see where it says fostering cultural awareness? I wanted to see what your thoughts are with removing the word awareness and put responsiveness. So fostering cultural responsiveness.
Yeah, that's much better, much stronger.
Okay. And then my next recommendation was take out. Okay, so you see down the it's the font is like a pinkish red.
Mm-hmm.
So take out the first equal right there and put instead equitable employment, because you already talk about equal on the next line. Right, so you have equitable employment opportunities includes not only a process for equal opportunity in hiring, but also, you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Instead of having equal twice,
Mhm.
so replace the first equal with the word equitable.
So tell me how you see the difference between equal and equitable, just because I really want to understand.
Oh, okay, so think of a race.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I get it. I know where.
you got it?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. Unless anybody else, does anybody else want to hear it? Okay. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
Cause because
Yeah.
equal is not, you
Yeah,
know, the race is the
exactly.
same for everyone, but what if I'm
I get it. Yeah,
mobility impaired or
Yeah.
hearing impaired and
yeah,
you didn't provide the same,
Right, I get it.
so,
Yep, I like that.
and then I think. And,
Quick question, I apologize.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Just if I can, I was
Mhm.
trying to look at our last update for that one. The equal employment opportunity, that did come from our legal update, so if you give me just a few minutes, I know you're gonna go on to the next one.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure that that's not legally required, that piece, 'cause
Oh, no, not a problem.
changing the wording and that one to equitable, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
let me I'll let you know in just a moment.
That whole line came from somewhere.
Came from a legal update, yes.
So we'll circle back to see if that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least what type of change it was.
Okay.
I mean, it could be either way, you know, Charlotte, Trustee Moore, it could be either way. It could be employment opportunity includes not only a process for equitable opportunity in hiring, it could be either way, you know,
Mhm.
changing it out.
But,
I know.
Denitra says she's gonna check and see was that
Yes.
Something
a
that's
legal update?
required. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I'm, you know, I'm happy that we agreed to at least put it in the beginning area.
Mhm.
If it comes back that we have to leave it as is, I'm okay with that because we speak to it early on.
But the other thing is we could somehow add another sentence, you know, to get to what you're.
Well, I mean, we both agreed to put it up here.
I agree.
Yeah,
In the
I,
first sentence, so you know, if you come back and say legally, we need to leave it as is, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But I just felt like it was,
Yeah.
the word was nowhere in there, and so I wanted to get the word equitable in there somewhere.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what it looks like it was trying to align it with Title V.
Okay,
And that's where the language would have come from.
so should we just, so do you recommend that we just leave that part as is because it's related to Title V?
That would be my.
Yeah.
yeah, because it's
Okay.
purposeful language. So thank you for looking that up. If it's in Title V, we have to be
Consistent.
consistent.
Mhm. No, I want us to be consistent, so we can leave the red area, font area as is, and just go with the two
Mhm.
suggested edits. And then other than that, yeah, I'm happy.
So I move that we approve board policy 3420, making two changes. changing awareness to responsiveness and adding equitable in the first sentence before equalized,
Mhm.
equitable and equalized.
I second that. Any further discussion? I don't see any hands raised. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries.
So this was fully vetted at BPA
Yes, a while ago.
Yes.
a while ago.
yeah.
Okay.
Looks like that was in 23.
Okay.
I spoke,
A year ago.
So
yes.
then this could go to the board.
I spoke to,
Full approval.
Dr. Murillo, and she gave me a list of all the policies that we were working on
Mhm.
prior to things kind of slowing down. Okay, all right, well, it looks like we are moving along. We are now on item 3. We just did item 3.5, yes.
We're on 3.6.
Item 3.6, yes, thank you. And that is board policy 5130.
Financial aid. This looks like it's all very standard.
Yeah, that's,
So this is the one, oops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you. I didn't mean.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I was agreeing.
Okay, the 5130, the last time we were here, there was a question about based upon our audit, if there was any changes, and so these are actually, these were not submitted to me just yet. So they haven't been to BPAP, but I know that they were working on them based upon the audit. So did this one come from Angelica and?
These I found on the app website.
Okay,
On the official site of the drive.
okay.
So everything that's in the red came from,
It's being worked on right now, so this is more 5130, I would say, as a heads up. I
Mhm.
wouldn't,
You wouldn't move it for
I wouldn't
action.
move it for action.
Okay.
Or anything like
So we're
that right now.
tabling this one too until we get more.
Yes.
Okay.
okay, I agree with that.
And is there a corresponding AP that we're working on as well?
As far as I know, right now, it's just the baby.
Okay.
That they're updating,
Okay,
but I.
and then we'll compare it and see.
It says CAP 6130
Yeah,
at the very end.
so we'll have to make sure that we,
Double check,
Yeah.
right, and the AP is the processes, and I think, based upon what I was told the changes were gonna be, there may not necessarily impact how we go about processing them.
okay,
It's just who gets the information,
Mhm.
was what they were, you know.
okay, great.
Okay, you want 30, okay. All right, so now we are moving on to item 3.7, BP 3100, diversity and employment. I will tell you that I became a little emotional reading this one. I did. This was a good read. It's a current stuff. This is, I don't have any recommendation for changes. I'm just very happy with what we are putting in here. Do you have any additional information, like how we got to?
This is the one that I recall sitting down with this policy subcommittee last year
Okay.
and working on during the summer months. And so there was a lot of passion at the table. I don't know how all of this grew to be, but I know that when I came into that meeting, I thought, oh my goodness, they've been doing some serious work. So I think if you all, I don't, have anything to add to that, but.
So my question, so in the pink part, a little bit further down, says before employees serve on hiring committees, they are required to complete anti-bias training. So I get that. My question is on the first sentence, all employees are expected to complete anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion, professional learning development. How did we define expected? Was that in conversation with all of our bargaining groups?
So this was before my time, so I don't know how they
Okay.
got there.
Okay.
But I can share based upon conversations with our faculty association, is that that was part of a conversation from a few years ago as well.
Mhm.
So I know that FA has been as eager and interested in that, have not had this conversation with CSEA.
Or ALA or
Or ALA.
CAN or confidentials. I just
Yep.
want to make sure that we've covered all of our collective bargaining
Okay.
responsibilities,
Mhm.
because when it says expected and it names training, I think it has to be, we have to be very clear
Mhm.
about what that means.
Okay,
And that's good, and we haven't identified this training as
Yeah.
of yet either, which is a little, I know the need and the value of it. But yes, that does make it very different and the impact that it has on.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, obviously I support it, so it's not a question of me not supporting it. I just want to make sure that we are clear with our respective bargaining
Mhm.
groups. Yeah,
well, it sounds like although we like it, we need to table it to check that.
yeah, we do. We need to table it just so that we are clear. And I also want to take a look at the AP to find out what needs to happen. The APs don't come here.
Mhm.
But we still need to make sure that whatever we're looking at in the AP aligns with the BP, as well as whatever it is we've had, whatever discussions we've had with our collective bargaining groups.
Okay, and then my only other thing is I would like to kind of align this with the language of our strategic plan. And in our strategic plan, we identify diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, and accessibility. And so I would just like to suggest that this also has the same
Order.
order
Mhm.
as well, to align with our strategic plan.
Sure. Dr. Alsheimer, do you have anything you want to add to this? To this
Not,
conversation?
thank you so much for asking me. Not much more than Demetrius already
Okay.
said. The FA has actually a proposal on the table for negotiations for training
Okay.
in this area.
Thank you.
And then I see Professor Olguin has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any, controversial things to say about this at all. What I do think would be very helpful for the college, for its policies broadly, but it would seem to fit very nicely here. And that would be to have some definitions that the college has adopt, or that the college adopts, for what do these terms mean? DEI, and if you're going to have DEIAA or DEIA or DEIAA, at one point in time, a B got in there, DEIB, but that then got out, and then we put in 1A, now we have 2 A's. And I have asked my dean for definitional, what do we mean by this? And she was able to come up with a definition that a subcommittee in some report a few years ago sort of came up with, but that was only for like one concept. One of these policies, these are policies, policy and philosophical and policy, they have policy implications, but these are policies. And we don't have, at least in my scanning of however many board policies and administrative procedures that we have, we don't really have clear definitions. And so, are we using them consistently? Are we, that's always the issue, for me. Well, how do you define diversity? I mean, isn't this diversity over here? Isn't that of a greater value or a greater degree of diversity than this diversity that you are claiming, or you're using the word to claim diversity? But yeah, so I think that you have, my general point, however inarticulate I was, but I do think that it's real important for the college and for the faculty, staff, managers and so on, for us to really do the work to try and have some degree of consensus in terms of, at least here's the baseline of what it is that we mean by that. Thank you.
Trustee Starter?
Well, I think that's a really good idea, and I feel like it would apply to so many different things. I mean, I think if we just had definitions for all these words that we used in, and definitions that are consistent through all of our APs and DPs, using the definition. But Dr. Moore, didn't you do something like this? I thought you did, but what was it in regards to?
The definitions, I actually presented them at a board meeting.
Yeah.
The
I remember
definitions that came from CCLC.
Yeah.
They already have a book that has all of these definitions in there.
Right.
And I
remember that.
recommended that we just use those definitions when people are asking, well, what exactly does that mean? That's when we were generating and revising Resolution 18.
Okay, I couldn't remember. So I wonder if we need to somehow put that on the board agenda, that the board wants to adopt those definitions as CCLC as sort of the official definitions that we use college-wide.
I just wanted to add, I haven't compared the two, but recently, within the last few years, Title V also updated and provide competencies, which provides definitions,
Okay.
which also dictates or helps inform how we evaluate employees. So I would lean
I
that
think
way a
it's,
little bit.
yeah, I think it's entitled, and I think the CCLC
Hold it.
definitions pulled them from Title V, but we should just compare it. Yeah.
Okay,
So, but what's the procedure for that? I mean, would that just be something we put on the board agenda and just discuss it? I mean, what would it be called?
Well, I think it would be, it could come out, it could be a recommendation from the policy committee, although I would recommend that the policy committee review what they were recommending. And then you would send it to the full board
Okay.
and recommend it to them.
and then do we now create this list of definitions and we paste them on each policy when the word comes up, or is it?
No, that's too cumbersome. You have a reference document,
Okay,
but related to item 4.1, one of the things that we need to do is also come up with a process, and we'll be talking a little bit about this at CPC tomorrow, a process for making sure that as this policy committee and then the board are evaluating policies, that even though BPAP had, the BPAP committee has representatives on it, we also need to make sure that larger constituencies out there know about it. So I would say policy committee would look at those definitions, and then I would take those definitions and your intent to take that to the board, to CPC, to the Academic Senate, to CSEA, to make sure that they're aware that that's
Well, and
your
get any
intent.
feedback.
And get any feedback,
Mhm.
right? Now, the kind of the challenge here is that we have an academic senate, and then we have 2 unions, a faculty and a classified, and then we have 3 meet and confer groups. So we have one process body, and then basically these other 2 labor unions, recognized labor unions, and then 3 meet and confer. So we have to figure out how to create the feedback loop that is expedient, and but we can't pretend that, because CSEA is not a classified senate, so they don't get presented to the same way that an academic senate would, because they're also a collective bargaining unit. So it's this, we just need to make sure that we cover all of our bases.
okay.
Who will make sure about that?
Well, ultimately, it's my responsibility, so that's why we're gonna talk about it as both part of CPC, but also the PRT visit that we have, that second visit that's on Wednesday. That's one of the things we're talking about is making sure that, you know, what is our shared governance process? How do we make sure that all constituencies are involved and have some sort of feedback loop? But it is a little more complicated because you really only have one academic senate. And then you have basically 2 unions and 3 meet and confer, which are workplace, those are working condition groups. So we have to figure that out, just to make sure that we get everyone.
Well, it looks like we're going to be tabling this one as well
Right,
with the open items of the suggested adding the additional AA in the title to align with our strategic plan and mission. And 2, we were going to. Where is it? Hold on.
Well, we want to
Mhm.
clarify the
the
definition.
definition.
Yeah.
Well, besides that, we were going to look into the bargaining components
Mhm.
related to the wording around required professional learning development.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So those were the
Yep.
2 things we were gonna look into. We will look into that, add the additional words to the title. And then because of the wording in here, now we're going to add that as we go into agenda 4.1 as our future consideration of items, researching policy terminology.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's,
And yes, and then also clarifying the process and cycle for BPAP review of board policies and administrative procedures, because I think that's one of the things we want to do is get this group on a more regular schedule,
Mhm,
looking at what we should do is focus first on anything that there's been a Title V change to.
mhm,
Secondly, any policy that hasn't been reviewed in the last 5 to 6 years should
Mhm.
automatically come here, even if you make no changes.
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
even if you make no changes, that it has been reviewed by the policy committee is important.
Okay, do you happen to know off the top of your head how many policies we have?
No.
We don't have hundreds, do we?
No,
Okay.
I don't think we have hundreds, but no, I don't know how many.
no, and we don't have all of and I do not believe we have, we do, but I do not believe we have all of the required policies.
Okay.
And that's what we need to double check.
Okay,
There are policies that a lot of times colleges don't know that they don't develop a policy or adopt a policy unless they think they need it.
right.
And so sometimes, like, when I got to PCC, I remember asking the CBO, so how do you know when to add money to the reserve? And he said, well, we don't have a policy. We had to actually develop a policy. The board had never identified an amount for the reserve. And there were a couple of other things that we needed because we were thinking about going for a bond. Well, we couldn't go for a bond without knowing we had those policies.
No,
And so
I completely
so
get it.
that's another piece of this that we just need to look at and, you know, it's just when you've had a lot of leadership changes
Mhm.
and a lot of changes
Yeah.
to Title V, you know, things get easy to slip through the cracks.
Well, that's a great segue into item 4.1.
Right.
And number one, so should we put that, not to say that one is more important than the other, but should we say, number one, review of process for our BPAT review?
Mhm.
And starting with Title V updates and looking at which policies have not been reviewed in over 5 years.
Mhm.
Okay, and then, so that's like A and B of number one. Number two is review of policy terminology.
Yeah.
And then
Missing policies.
Yeah.
Policies that are not here.
okay.
Yeah, I'd say missing policy. So something, what hasn't been reviewed in the last 5 years, what's missing, if anything. It's possible we don't have any missing, but we do need to take a look.
So that's
And then-
that number three?
No,
Yeah.
that's number two, and then number three are the definitions. We should keep the policies together.
Okay, so missing policies would be like a part C of number one.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm confused. Okay,
So number one is reviewing our process for BPAT review, and under that is we're gonna look at what Title V changes
oh, title, okay.
Title V changes. B would be policies that haven't been reviewed in over 5 years, and C would be what policies are we missing?
Yeah,
Right.
okay,
And then number two would be policy terminology.
Mhm.
And then number three, would number three be these policies that we've tabled today?
If possible, but depending on what we need to revisit
Okay.
and shared governance and making sure that if it's something, because for example, the Institutional Code of Professional Ethics, I have a hard time believing that we will be able to bring that back before the fall. And the
Okay.
reason is because the Senate only has 2 more meetings.
Okay.
And the idea that we could get this developed, vetted through the Senate and
Uh-huh.
all of that, because we cannot go forward without more dialogue with the Senate.
So then why don't we just start our running list of policies that we've already identified, and then we put in process next to it?
That would be part of the looking at the policies that need to be reviewed because
Okay.
they haven't been reviewed. So the answer is yes, and a document will be created that shows how you're gonna look at policies to get us up to date.
Okay,
So we'll have a schedule. That's one of the reasons it's important for this committee to meet every other month because
Mhm.
we've got a lot of things
Okay.
we want to get caught up on.
that's good.
okay,
That's good.
so do we list some other policies?
No,
No?
not
I
at
feel like
least
we've
at this
sort of been
point.
Floundering for the past year, it's been very hit or miss.
Yeah. We're not, I think what's important is we need to identify.
Got it. Okay,
first, and then we can start to, I think, creating a calendar that includes the policies that need to be reviewed
Mhm.
is the first step to knowing what we're gonna do next, because some of that might organically come up through other things we're working on.
Okay. Well, I don't see any hands raised. Any further discussion?
Just confirming,
Yes.
BP 2355 will go to the April board.
Yeah,
2, 3, 5,
Or
5.
the one that we just.
the quorum.
Four. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, well, it looks like we've gone through all of our agenda items. And I will call the meeting adjourned at 5:05 PM.
Some sauce.
Good job. Yes.